Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. If the greatest music of the rock era is of interest to you, you're going to want to become part of our community, your community, by subscribing to this channel so you don't miss out on our daily episodes. You can subscribe below. Also support our mission of curating the best of the rock era by becoming an honorary patron. Now there are many great tenor singers in the music business. But nobody, and I mean nobody, sounds like Peter Cetera. His glorious, unmistakable tenor moves us with emotionally rich conviction. I mean, Peter sings songs from the heart, and we feel his music in our hearts. He's been one of my favorite vocalists since I can remember discovering music. And if I was pushed, I would say Peter Cetera is on a very short list of the greatest voices and interpreters in the history of popular song. What I mean is, I think he would have been the top in any era, be it the rock era or even back in the days of the big bands, Tin Pan Alley. His voice is filled with pure conviction and undying affection. I mean, nobody can sing a love song better than Peter Cetera. Nobody. That's a fact. An original member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame band Chicago, Peter Cetera was with Chicago on 18 albums, singing lead vocals on most of their long list of celebrated hits before embarking on a solo career in 1984. As a solo artist, Peter has recorded 8 albums with 6 top 40 hits, including 2 #1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100. He's been nominated for a Grammy in the pop vocal category 5 times for songs that he's either performed lead or co-lead vocal. Peter is also a coveted collaborator, going back to his days as a member of Chicago, when he was asked to do background vocals on Billy Joel's 1978 hit, My Life, and he performed backing vocals for the great Karen Carpenter on her self-titled solo album in 1979 on a song that he scribed titled Making Love in the Afternoon. More recently, Peter has worked with Chaka Khan, Paul Anka, Alison Krauss, among many others. Of course, he's had several exceptional duets as a solo artist, such as the ballads Next Time I Fall, great song with Amy Grant that went to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100.
Next time I fall in love.
And After All with Cher that ascended to #6 on the Hot 100 and was #1 on the AC charts.
Stars and stars, we keep coming back to these 2 hearts.
Which, believe me, we will be coming out with the greatest duets of all time. Our show Dose will cover those for sure. Peter's eminence as a singer and songwriter often overshadows his skill as a bassist. I mean, throughout his career, Peter has garnered tremendous praise in concert reviews for his bass playing. Bass Player magazine featured Cetera on its cover for an issue in 2007, giving him props as one of rock's finest bassists, and many of Cetera's contemporaries have cited his influence on their playing, such as Jimmy Haslip, the renowned bass player for the Yellow Jackets. Now, Peter grew up in a musical family in the south side of Chicago, with his mother and siblings always singing about the house. Peter received praise for his singing from friends and family, going back to when he was 11 years old. In addition to his vocal prowess, he was actually a bit of a polka prodigy. He wanted a guitar, but his parents wouldn't allow it, so he started playing an accordion. Peter has revealed that his mother actually wanted him to become a priest, but that was not an occupation that young Peter aspired to pursue. He wanted to be a baseball player or a football player, but of course he had rock and roll in his blood just like his brothers. Peter's brother Tim Cetera actually played bass and performed background vocals on Ricky Nelson's Rick Sings Nelson album in 1970, and his brother Kenny Cetera is a session player and vocalist who was a contributing musician on several recordings with Chicago, on a Peter solo material. He's also recorded with the likes of Richard Marx and Julio Iglesias, Kenny Rogers, just to name a few. Going back to Peter's gift for polka, he actually won a local talent contest for his accordion playing when he was only 12 years old. You know, Peter loved the energy that polka music created. He and Weird Al probably get along very well. He enjoyed watching his father, who was a very skilled and animated polka dancer. When Peter finally did get his guitar, he formed a band with his high school friends as a teenager called The Exceptions. And the group played virtually all of the clubs in the Chicagoland area, making really good money doing that. At one particular gig for The Exceptions, there was another up-and-coming local band on the bill. They were called The Big Thing, who Peter found very interesting because their set list was much different from other bands in the area in that they had a horn section that further added to the band's distinction. It just so happened that the big thing was looking to bolster their vocal strength, and they needed a tenor vocalist, so they invited Peter to join them. The band members of the big thing, including Terry Kath, Robert Lamb, Jimmy Pankow, Walter Parazater, Lee Loughnane, and Danny Serafin, of course. Peter accepted their invitation and joined the group that was soon renamed Chicago Transit Authority in '68. A year later, they, of course, shortened their name to simply Chicago. And that was the beginning of Chicago's remarkable history as one of the longest running and most successful bands of all time. Chicago they were just on this incredible roll from '69 through '78. They released 11 albums that were certified platinum or multi-platinum. And then they hit this dark period with the untimely death of guitarist Terry Kath, who died of an accidental gunshot wound, and record sales seriously declined on 3 straight albums released in '78, '79, and '80. They were dropped by their longtime label, Columbia Records. The band battled through the adversity, making a new deal with Warner Brothers Records, which led to an invaluable collaboration with producer-composer David Foster for the recording of Chicago 16. It was a major comeback for Chicago and ignited the fire for a decade of tremendous prosperity. Peter Cetera had a burning drive to work on solo material, and he wanted to follow that path that Phil Collins had established with Genesis, where he could bounce back and forth from Chicago and solo work. But the band didn't agree to Peter's wishes, and Cetera faced one of the biggest decisions of his life: adhere to the band's ultimatum or follow his heart and break away for a solo career. Peter went with his heart and never looked back. Having said that, here is my Peter Cetera, Fiverr, top 5 recorded performances. But first, a very worthy, honorable mention for Hard to Say I'm Sorry, the #1 pop hit that marked the comeback of Chicago in 1982. Co-written by Peter and David Foster, who also played the piano on the track, instead of Chicago co-founder and regular keyboardist Robert Lamb, who was largely unavailable for the recording sessions of Chicago 16 due to personal reasons.
I will make it up to you. I promise to.
Session musicians were hired to play on the recording, including Toto's virtuoso Steve Lukather, one of my favorites, David Paich and Steve Porcaro, legends, who were always 3 of the most sought-after studio players in the LA music scene. The only other Chicago band member to perform on Hard to Say I'm Sorry besides Cetera was drummer Danny Serafin. Peter was included as a special featured guest on the remix version of the band As Yet, wonderful reworking of Hard to Say I'm Sorry that went to number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1997. Peter's vocal performance on this song is just heart-wrenching and so masterfully pure. Every time it comes on, it just stops you dead in your tracks. My favorite part is when Peter sings the second chorus and comes in, he kind of plays it straight when he sings, I Just Want You to Know, and then he immediately comes back with that heartbreaking reflection, Hold Me Now. So much power in that.
I just want you to know. Yeah. Hold me now. I really want to tell you I'm sorry.
I also want to say that One Good Woman is another incredible song from Peter's solo career that deserves recognition. You got to go back and listen to it. We're going to cover that one down the road as well. It's just a fine song.
I'm so in love with you.
Number 5, from the Karate Kid Part 2 soundtrack, Glory of Love. Peter kicked off his solo career with a bang, a #1 single on the Billboard Hot 100. The lyrics for Glory of Love were written by Cetera with help from his ex-wife Diane Nini. David Foster wrote the song's musical arrangement. When Glory of Love was finished, Peter was convinced that it was going to be big, but his enthusiasm was curbed temporarily by an immediate setback. Glory of Love was actually originally written for the movie Rocky IV, but Sylvester Stallone passed on the song and he chose Hearts on Fire by John Cafferty for the training montage in Rocky IV. That song peaked at number 76 on the Billboard Hot 100, a far cry from the chart-topping success of Glory of Love. You know, there's some interesting irony here. Hearts on Fire was co-written by Joe Esposito, who performed the song You're the Best, that was used for the All Valley tournament montage in the original 84 The Karate Kid, the classic. But that song was first presented to Stallone for Rocky III in 1982, and Sly rejected it. That's a funny twist of fate in the always wacky music business. I guess everybody won in the end, including Daniel LaRusso and Rocky Balboa. Besides becoming a #1 pop smash, Glory of Love was nominated for an Academy Award and a Golden Globe Award for Best Original Song from a Motion Picture. Peter was also nominated for a Grammy for Best Pop Male Vocal in 1987. You know, this was my favorite song in the summer of '86. I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember jumping up and down in celebration the week that Casey Kasem named it as the #1 hit of the week, a weekly top 40. It was as if my favorite team had just won the World Series. That's how much I loved it. I also remember calling the radio station and dedicating it to my crush at that moment. I don't think she ever knew that. That year, I bought Peter Solitude Solitaire, and my sister bought Chicago 18, and we'd argue about which one was better, and of course, I was right. Number 4, 25 or 6 to 4, one of 3 singles from Chicago's self-titled second album, released in 1970. People generally refer to Peter Cetera as a balladeer, but there are many tracks where he demonstrates his rock chops, especially his blistering lead vocal performance on 25 or 6 to 4. It's even more impressive when you consider that Peter was forced to sing the vocal in the recording studio while his jaw was still wired shut from a broken jaw that he suffered during an altercation he had at Dodger Stadium, defending his Cubs against angry Dodger fans after a Cubs victory. 25 or 6 to 4 spotlights the superb musicianship of Chicago with their powerful horn section and incredible guitar solo by the late Terry Kath. Kath was a revered guitarist and a catalyst that the band members referred to as the glue of Chicago. If you aren't familiar with the amazing musicianship of Terry Kath, go back to early Chicago albums. In addition to 25 or 6 to 4, check out Dialogue Part 1 and 2, and Southern California Purples, among many other rockers that Terry just shredded on. 25 or 6 to 4 was written by Chicago's Robert Lamb. It was actually banned from the radio airplay in Singapore when it was first released due to an alleged allusion to LSD in the song's lyrics and title. The ban was lifted by the Singapore government, I guess, in 1993. 25 or 6 to 4 was a heavily played track on FM radio in America, climbed to number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 as one of Chicago's breakthrough singles for AM Top 40 radio. It also went to number 7 in the UK and number 2 in Canada. Number 3, If You Leave Me Now, the first #1 single on the Billboard Hot 100 for Chicago in 1976, and one of their biggest selling singles with more than 1.5 million units sold. It also rose to number 1 in the Netherlands, Australia, Canada, Ireland, South Africa, and in the UK. This classic tearjerker was written by Cetera and truly ushered in his natural ability to project the anguish of a pleading lover with a moving vocal performance that is one for the ages. If You Leave Me Now showcases Peter's range and his versatility to change from the lower octave to a higher range with just great control. And like I said, it puts Peter in the highest echelons of interpreting a love song. A vocal highlight is Peter's sweetness in the lyric, "A love like ours is a love that's hard to find. How could we let it slip away?" Great line. The song won a Grammy Award for Best Pop Vocal Performance by a Duo, Group, or Chorus in '77, along with a Grammy for Best Song Arrangement. It was also nominated for Record of the Year. Now, James Guercio, who was Chicago's manager and producer at the time, performed the acoustic guitar break in the recording of If You Leave Me Now. That was instead of lead guitarist Terry Kath, which presented, I guess, some friction during live performances where Kath would quietly walk off the stage just before the band played the song in their set, because I guess he felt disrespected by not being involved in the recording of the track. Very interesting. Number 2, You're the Inspiration from Chicago 17, the band's biggest selling album with over 6 million units sold around the world. It was the third single released from Chicago 17 in early 85, a great album with so many great singles. It climbed to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. Peter Cetera's vocal fits the joyful elation of this song, so much so that it was bestowed an honor in the Most Performed Songs category by the American Society of Composers and Publishers, otherwise known by the acronym ASCAP, in 1986.
Kind of love to last forever.
Peter co-authored this song with the great David Foster, and the two originally wrote it for Kenny Rogers to record. But when he didn't, they just took it back and they tweaked the lyrics a little bit for Chicago to include as a track on Chicago 17. This is just one of those songs that just set the bar for me as a kid about true love. And I'm being serious here. I mean, the way Peter Cetera sings these lyrics, his perfect tone with that angelic keyboard, going into that first chorus is just so electrifyingly poignant and powerful. I mean, any 80s kid knows exactly what I'm talking about. And then he goes into that second chorus when he says, I know it's plain to see, so in love when we're together. Hair standing straight on end, lift you 10 feet off the ground, knock you sideways, silly kind of stuff.
So in love when we're together.
It's all Cetera. He sings those lines with so much conviction, so much brazen integrity. It just gives you faith in true love. It just does. And then when he goes further and he sings, and I know that I need you here with me from tonight until the end of time.
From tonight until the end of time.
When I heard that at 9 years of age, it set the bar. I knew that if I could meet somebody in my future who made me feel what Peter Cetera made me feel with that line, with that vocal, then I would move heaven and earth to make a life with that person.
You're the meaning in my life. You're the inspiration.
And you know what? It happened. I mean, call me cheesy, call me dorky, but for my wife and me, that's become our song. I just love it. You're the Inspiration is such an inspired vocal extravaganza by Peter Cetera that if you listen to its inspired 3 minutes and 50 seconds and you aren't completely infatuated with its magic, I'd say that you're not human and that you need some help. No, really, it's so magical, especially the ending. By the way, all of the 80s Chicago hits were on that Greatest Hits album. We'll show it up here. And every girl I knew in high school had this, and they played it incessantly. And every guy had it too, but they'd hide it. They'd just lie about it. Truth. Number 1, Hard Habit to Break. Another smash from Chicago 17, released as the second single from the album in the summer of 84, co-written by John Lewis Parker and Steve Kipner, who also penned Olivia Newton-John's monster hit Physical and Christina Aguilera's Genie in a Bottle. Now, Peter Cetera performed lead vocals on this with the severely underappreciated Bill Champlin. Man, he's so great. They alternated lead on the verses and shared vocal prowess on the chorus. Plus, Bill delivers a booming vocal for that pivotal part of the song, I'm Addicted to You, Baby. Love that.
I'm addicted to you, babe.
We're going to feature the story of the song with Bill. He'll tell it very soon. But I will say, very matter of fact, Hard Habit to Break is Chicago's Pet Sounds. Just is. In my opinion, it's a masterpiece. David Foster's production is truly inspired. It's taken this song to a level that very few have equaled in history. I'm telling you, go get a great pair of headphones and listen meticulously to this song. You'll agree with me. There's no question. It's one of a kind. The dynamic combination of Peter Cetera and Bill Champlin, it just created one of the most outstanding dual vocal performances in popular music history. It sure would have been great to have really had more of those special recordings with Peter and Bill. They just do so well. Really can't say enough about this song. Peter Cetera is one of those legendary vocalists that makes you feel what he's feeling. I mean, that's why I love his performance so much on A Hard Habit to Break. We've all been there. We've listened to this song when we're down. The way he sings the third verse can honestly get me a little choked up every time I hear it.
I know I can't blame you for running two people together, but leaving alone. I was spreading my love.
I mean, after Peter Cetera hits a grand slam with that, then Bill steps up to the mic and he hits it out of the park, and then the two of them together leading into that chorus single-handedly put every artist and every song on notice in the charts in that moment.
But deep in the night, it's an endless fight. I can't get you out of my mind.
How this song wasn't number one, it's really ridiculous. Hard Habit to Break actually rose to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 8 in the UK. The week that it peaked at number 3, Stevie Wonder was at number 1 with I Just Called to Say I Love You, and Caribbean Queen by Billy Ocean was at number 2, by the way. Every time I listen to Hard Habit to Break, I stare forward in disbelief at what I've just heard. Even though it's like the 2000th time that I've heard it, I'm just blown away by every little nuance. It's a perfect pop song. And another highly acclaimed Peter Cetera vocal treasure, nominated for 4 Grammy Awards, Best Instrumental Arrangement with Accompanying Vocals, Best Pop Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocal, Best Vocal Arrangement with 2 or more voices, and a Record of the Year in 1985. Once Peter Cetera's enormous talent as a vocalist came to the forefront in the early 70s, it was impossible to hold this guy back. The world cannot get enough of this captivating tenor. It's just the truth. Over 17 years with Chicago and even longer as a solo sensation and collaborator, Peter has been wooing and inspiring us with his love songs and matters of the heart. He's like the Roy Hobbs of music. He's just a natural, and he even kind of looks like Roy Hobbs. And I always loved it in that movie, in The Natural, when Roy Hobbs says this.
There goes Roy Hobbs, the best there ever was in this game.
Well, guess what? Myself and so many other 80s kids feel the same thing about Peter Cetera. Whenever he comes on, I say to my kids, that's the voice of Peter Cetera, the best there ever was. Truth. Leave us a comment about Peter Cetera. What is your fiver? What are your favorite songs by him? What are some memories that you have around those songs? I always love to read those. Celebrate Peter Cetera in the right way. Listen to his songs by clicking on the playlist below. Get Peter Cetera and Chicago's music on vinyl and other merch by going to the Amazon links. If you like our content, subscribe to our channel, become a patron, become a part of this community. Help us keep the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Thanks.